/dev TFT Inkborn Fables learnings by Teamfight Tactics on June 24th. We've got about a month left with Inkborn Fables, and it's time to break out the set annual, setual, setly. Okay, no one's asking about you to invent words like this, but it's okay. Learnings article where we just got over how the set landed, the highs, the lows, and a couple of reflective insights that we are thinking about internally. As always, these are deeper articles where we strive to show our framework for thinking about making TFT as awesome as possible. So kick back with your favorite cup of tea and let's get into the magic making of TFT. As we enter our 11th learnings article, we're going to shift how we do these by examining how the set is done as a whole and sharing the set's successes, learnings, shortcomings, and more. Since this is the first time we're mixing up the format, we will do our due diligence to respond to all the topics we have mentioned in our last learning articles here. So they did the last learning articles. This was the set 10 Remix Rumble one. They talk about legends, oh god, region portals, power blow, skins accessibilities, exciting, unique, low-cost champions, set complexity balance, stuff like looking forward, like game-to-game variants and loot distribution. Moving forward, we want the item and loot drop system to remain one of the game-to-game variants, not player-to-player variants. Item uniqueness and artifacts. Artifacts allow us to do very cool things that our core item system does not allow for, so we're adding 20 more artifacts that will come at some point during the next set. So those are some of the learnings from previous set. Let's talk about Inkborn Fables. Set theme. Starting off light, we're going to talk about our set's theme with our art director. We just went from the hype mixes of Remix Rumble into the chill vibes of Inkborn Fables without skipping a beat. Here are some things we've learned. Art. If Remix Rumble was our music set, Inkborn Fables was going to be our art set. Our players love Eastern fantasy as much as we do. I mean, I'm sure most of them are from China and Vietnam. And we have a back catalog of amazing work in this theme from various LOL skin lines and work done during our Fates set. But in addition to all these existing resources, we wanted to bring in cultural advisors in Eastern art, stories, and culture to imbue Inkborn Fables with an authentic touch that had everything from encounters to the various scroll-like artworks feeling especially grounded, well, as much as possible from their fantastical setting. I'd call out that the Shenhai's Scrolls alternate universe proved to be a great inspiration for our world. Actually, I'm not familiar with this. Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, totally. Yes, I definitely see that. Oh, they did a great job capturing that if that's what they're aiming for. Not every set is going to require this much research and exploration, but we're really happy with how Inkborn Fables landed aesthetically. I mean, I do agree with this. I think the set is in a really good spot aesthetically. They clearly put a lot of work into it. I didn't realize that it was such a big monumental effort. I kind of wish there was a little bit more behind the scenes stuff, because when they did set 10, they also showed like the entire recording studio and like all the mixes that went into it. It's a little bit more obvious too with the music itself, but the art was really good this set for sure. All right, original characters. We made a few TFT exclusive units, but Inkborn Fables marked the first time we've had an original character for the broader Runeterra universe. We're not going to get too deep into this because we have a full article on here. Oh, wow, I didn't realize that. But expect us to continue bringing new characters and skin to TFT that might not originate from League of Legends. Okay, great. I mean, they brought in Silco from TFT and Kabuko. They have Alun as well. I mean, TFT, this is a good thing because TFT ultimately is having original designs and things that aren't just like, okay, it's League of Legends, but this. And that also gives them design space in the future to do some cool characters. And I think Kabuko is fun. I think Kabuko, like, he ended up decent this set for me. Okay, now into the gameplay discussion. Power frameworks and cost viability. One of the things we struggle with the early half of the set was getting our power structure correct. Okay, I'm interested in what he means by power structure here in this definition. At the start of the set, we were seeing people hit 3-star 2 costs as early as 3-2 and 3-star 3 costs on 4-1. And since they were far more powerful than 2-star 4 costs, as they should be, like 3-star 3 costs should be more powerful, it was always the correct choice. Playing around 3 cost reroll strategies would also become more powerful with other players rerolling for the same tier of units, but past this, 4 costs at the start of the set were mostly fielded as trait bots and skipped over for fielding the much more powerful 5 costs. That's right, 4 costs were really weak throughout the set. So we course corrected, making it harder to hit 3-star champions as well as increasing the power of 4 costs. This ended up swinging a bit too far the other way, with 4 costs becoming the main way to play the game. Yeah, a bit. It was at one point, reroll was almost completely dead, and it was all about hitting your 4 costs. You would hit a 4 cost 2-star, that's what you were playing for. You would roll for all the 4-cost frontline. It became very flexible in the way you built the board, but that's assuming that you were playing 4-cost strategy. If you played a non-4-cost strategy, it was not very viable. Over time, we corrected this and got to a better place, but it still left a sour spot on the set where it felt like certain cost buckets weren't viable. Yeah, by the way, a lot of players don't like 4-cost metas. Like, your favorite streamer probably likes playing around 4 costs in North America, but like reroll comps are really popular in like Korea, for example. Bebe's been very vocal to tell us that like Korea loves that. It's really popular in China as well. So a lot of this 4-cost bias is like NA centric. And I mean, that is one thing to note, is that a lot of like the English speaking community wants to play around 4 costs mainly. But obviously you want champs from every cost bucket to be viable, and players are going to play around the champs they enjoy at any given time. But let me break down a little bit more about that and outline the purpose of each cost in star level. 1 cost. At 2 stars, these are the champions that stabilize your board in stage 2 and allow you to win streak. Okay, agreed. If you still playing 2-star 1 cost in stage 3 and on, you're likely to fall off and you need to upgrade. Yeah? Well, Darius wasn't that for a long time, but they eventually caught on to it. This was actually, Darius was something that actually went past Riot. And apparently, according to what was said, I wasn't there for this conversation, but Riot said, we didn't hear you guys complain about Darius enough because it looked like fine in the data or whatever. Like, it wasn't like that big of an outlier. But the challenger player said, we didn't think we needed to complain about it because it should have been obvious to you guys. There was like that conversation there. I don't know if this is the exact wording, but this is close to it. Like, we want you guys to be more vocal about it. And they're like, oh, we thought that you guys just knew that Darius 2 was busted because this Darius violated this. Remember when Darius 2 was like a free streak all the way to stage 4, and then you would just transition to like, you know, Yone or Duelist, whatever was meta at the time. At 3 stars, these can start to be viable carries in the end game, but in order to win games, they'll need to be paired with their trait capped out and supporting 4 and 5 costs. Like Kog'Maw reroll and 7 Mythic is an example here. Okay, nothing really wrong with that. You can't have 1 cost reroll comps win the game by themselves. Hint, hint, hero augments, story champion. We definitely got a little carried away there, but no disagreements. I agree with the power structure. I do think that at times this set we've had some misses there. 2 costs. As 2 stars, these are very powerful in stage 2 and 3, but you likely need to get them out of the way on stage 4 as the 4 costs start to come online. Generally, swapping 2-star 2 cost for a 1-star 4 cost should be a slight upgrade. At 3 stars, these should be viable endgame carries on par with 2-star 4 costs that require strong setups to win the game. 6 Dryad Gnar is an example of good here. 6 Dryad Gnar? Okay. We never really played Gnar that often with 6 Dryad. We just played him when Gnar was good, it was 4 Dryad. These should be coming around 3-5 at the earliest. That's still really early for 3-star 2 costs. 3-5? Dude, you played 8 PvP rounds and you get 3-star 2 costs? If they come on early before that, we likely have to reduce their power. I usually think I would like 3-star 2 costs to be more common at the beginning of stage 4, because that's when you like rank up a bunch of like power and you're trying to like make sure you're strong for a big power spike before everyone else. So that's surprising. I'm not sure if I entirely agree. I would want 2 stars to be coming on at 3-5. I guess he's saying the earliest, so he's talking about an extreme. Also, it's interesting that they think that 1-star 4 cost should be better than 2-star 2 cost. That is interesting. So they want like Ashe 1 to be slightly better than Senna 2. That's not my impression of power. I feel like 1-star 4 cost would be slightly worse than it'd be inverted. 3 costs. At 2 stars, these should be great mid-game carries, allowing you to do very well in stage 3 and even stage 4 with the right setups. Weaker than 2-star 4 costs, but stronger than 1-star 4 costs. Okay, that makes sense. With the right setup, they can even allow you to level 9. At 3 stars, they should generally be slightly higher cap than a 2-star 4 cost, but require their traits and powerful support to shine. 6 Umbral Loon 3 is a good example here. An important thing to note here is that the players should be hitting these later than 2-star 4 costs. Yes, they should be. They shouldn't be hitting 3-star 3 costs in stage 4, man. If they're hitting them too early due to too many resources, too high shot odds, say stage 4, then we can reduce their power to be on par with 2-star 4 costs to make up for that. I mean, I do think that in general, 3 costs are like really important because they glue so many things. You need to have fallback options if you're missing your 4 cost rule down. So this spell makes sense. 4 costs, these are primary carries of TFT and generally what a lot of comps are designed around having. Most of our vertical origins are centered around a 4 cost and should be key centerpieces of comps played a certain way. Fata Syndra, Duelist Lee Sin, and Mythic Lilia are examples here. Generally, these come online in stage 4 and represent the end game. True. 5 costs, the caps of your comp meant to be the thing that you separate from fourth from first. These take your comp to their final form. You aren't meant to play all of them, but having more should help your team a lot. Zai for trick shot, I really do are great examples here. Also important to have more generalist 5-cost here as well. The sort of threat-like legendary units. Udyr for his huge HP pool, Wukong for his splash traits, Hui for his ability to print champions. And other things XD. I think he's referring to the fact that if you didn't know by now, you can actually have Hui, paint, item anvils, and golden eggs and other fun links, things like that. I like that they acknowledge that Wukong is more of a splash unit. Oh, there's a pun. Heavenly Sage, and he's pretty great too. As a small side note, I got my first official dad joke book. Like, I got a book of dad jokes, and it's like hundreds of pages. Someone bought that for me. To which I said, "What, you think I'm too funny? You want to nerf me?" And they laughed. It might be the last time they ever laugh at my jokes. So yeah. The big thing moving forward is balancing the accessibility of reroll comps with their relative power. Too easy means that they have to be weaker. Too hard means that they aren't worth the risk. It's something that we think the set helped us get a better spot, but will be the center of attention for the balance team as we launch each set. Center of attention for best. So they're going to try to make relative power of reroll comps a central focus point. At this point, we think we have the frameworks and systems surrounding these in the correct spot now, which help make it easier on future sets to find the right spot sooner. Oh boy, let me zoom in for this one. Okay. Encounters. Encounters were the main set mechanic for Inkborn Fables. For better or for worse, they added a ton of variants to the core experience of TFT and made every game feel like a unique journey, as you didn't know what and who to expect. This mechanic met the goals, and generally, by most of our players, was considered a fun addition to TFT. This mechanic met the goals, and generally by most of our players would consider a fun addition to TFT. Can we run a poll real quick? Do you think encounters are a fun addition to TFT? Not balanced, not about like, so just think about the fun addition. I need a poll ran right now. Now, we did say most, but certainly not all. For some players, that uncertainty and unpredictability meant that it was harder to really optimize your strategy as a game plan. For some players. Important to note, by the way, this is not all high competitive players. There are casual players that hate encounters. How many of you are a casual player that actually don't like encounter RNG? I'm sure there's a handful of you. And likewise, some competitive players like encounters. For players who really like to optimize a solid way, this created a large feeling of discomfort and potential frustration. Yes, even something as simple as gaining 2 component anvils could swing fights if players weren't in a planned position to take advantage of those. Yeah, that's true. I mean, 2 components is a big deal, but he's not wrong. It is simple. And that's not even speaking of bigger swinging encounters like Rakan's Recombobulate. I mean, that's true. It's funny because I feel like Rakan's Recombobulate isn't even the biggest offender. I feel like the Ornn carousels, the Radiant carousels, your shops are 1 cost less to reroll. That kind of stuff is like so game warping sometimes. Okay, we got a poll coming up. Are encounters fun? Hey, look. If 51% of you vote, that's the majority, we could say most. It's actually kind of close. Wait, this poll is ticking down. Is it yes or is it no? That's actually interesting. You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and say encounters can be fun. They can be. So I'm gonna soft vote yes. I'm not gonna actually click vote. Generally, that lack of control is pretty unappealing to the subset of our players. Some encounters, like the Lily one that moves augments, could vary wildly from fun to unfun. Having all the augments appear in stage 2 is a really cool experience that players enjoy. Yes, I'm a big fan of that. I like when the augments are like 2-1, 2-2, 2-3, and now you play a different game, or 2-1, 2-5, and then 3-1. It's a really interesting game because you get to evaluate augments in different positions than you usually do. It looks like most people said yes. 55-45. Having no augments appear into stage 4 or later was too close to Stillwater Hold and generally pretty unfun. Agreed. Also, from a game design perspective, encounters and their combination with portals and augments have pushed us to the extreme of what we can give out in terms of extra resources like items and gold. That's right. Inflation. This is more dogs America. Look at the amount of inflation. You get 2 duplicators and a radiant item. And by the way, here's a bunch of extra component anvils and gold, and also your shops are reduced in cost. It's just crazy. I feel like I'm playing Fortune's Favor or Chonk's Treasure half my games, and that's not even counting the fact that a Scuttle Puddle game on top of that, right? Scuttle Puddle game with the early time catch. Someone went level 8 on 3-2 in one of my games before because it was a Tom Kench encounter at the start of the game, and they start off with 30 gold, and they took an econ augment at 2-1. They were making 50 gold at 2-2. 2-1, 2-2. It was ridiculous. They got to level 8 at 3-2. It was crazy. We're pretty set on pushing things back down a bit as the level of resource inflation that was possible in some of these games hit or even broke through the ceiling if we wanted TFT. I fully agree with that. That is a thumbs up for me. So what's the takeaway? Well, again, we're happy with encounters as set mechanic and concept. They were novel and unique and like what Inkborn Fables will be remembered for. But like any set mechanic, encounters aren't something we want to keep around for TFT in the long run. Woohoo! I'm down. Next set's mechanic is something very different, so you won't be seeing encounters again soon. But they taught us even more about players' preferences, and we're taking that forward to future mechanics and opportunities. As a set mechanic and concept isn't even bad. Anybody that goes against this is like a person that's fundamentally opposed to variance, like trying to introduce unique game states. And I think that you're wrong on that front. I think that's what makes TFT interesting. Like encounters have such a powerful way of introducing a novel TFT experience that will ultimately make the game fresh. But the way they were implemented, some of them were just way too swingy. But there are some good ones, right? Like, where's some good encounters? Like the Malphite encounter that removes items. That one's fun every now and then. It's basically getting a golden remover. That one's pretty interesting. Okay, I might be out of ammo. Are there any other good ones? Please tell me in chat if there's any other good encounters. But there's certainly other good encounters. The choose encounter. Oh yeah, some of the choose encounters can be good if it's like, do you want like a 3 cost, 2 cost, or like, you know, like one, like some of those could be interesting. What you're choosing to buff, like HP, AD, and AP, like they can be interesting. Hold on a second. Hold on. Are you guys reading this? Kayn is a good encounter. Kayn is fun. I like Kayn. You guys are trolling. At the beginning of the set, that's all you guys were. You guys were raging about that. You guys were talking about in the set preview that you didn't like the Kayn encounter because the Kayn encounter was going to be like, oh my god, this is going to be the way that determines the tournament and championship. And you're going to be like, oh my god, it's going to be so stupid because the game's going to end so early. That's what you guys were talking about at the beginning of the set. You guys are now coming full circle and saying the Kayn encounter was good. I'm not discounting that. I'm just pointing out some observations. Trait design. We can't discuss every trait here, but I did want to cover 2 key learnings that need to be retained moving forward. The first is specifically Ghostly and Heavenly compared to something like Dragonlord. Okay. In the past, small traits that grant your team power are awesome. They allow you to flex into smaller or larger amount of them and add power to your team. Need some magic resistant? Tekken 2 Mystic. Have a spare slot? Add an Altruist for some extra defenses. There's nothing wrong with smaller traits that enhance your team. Yeah, exactly. There's nothing wrong with smaller traits, guys. Don't be so insecure about it. And even having a bunch of them so you can do stuff like Jazz from Remix Rumble or Stand United builds. This is all great and it opens up more controversy. Yep, there's no disagreements there. However, where this falls apart is when we have a big vertical as defined by a trait that has 6 or more champions in it. Okay, it's a team-wide buff component where the primary champions within that trait don't benefit as much since their potential is lower than someone with a more selfish trait. That's a lot of words, but a simpler version is when the best carry for a big vertical trait isn't someone in the trait, we've messed up. They're talking about Ghostly, right? Ghostly being primarily played around Zyra and Senna is extremely unintuitive for players and leaves champs like Morgana and Kayn feeling much weaker since they can't easily increase their power. It's true. The same is true for Heavenly, which had more Lee Sin carries than Wukong carries. It also makes both of their emblems, which are craftable, pretty unexciting since it becomes incorrect to put them items on a champion and instead just throw them on a dead unit. He's not wrong. Although Heavenly is kind of billed as a support trait. Like Heavenly was like fine vintage the trait where you get to just build a bunch of support for 1 carry. So I'm more okay with that. But Ghostly definitely felt like that. However, I will say one thing. These traits existing enabled more power fantasies for certain units. Like Ghostly lets you re-roll for lower cost champions. So like Zoe got to carry, Zyra got to carry, Senna gets to carry, Kai'Sa gets to carry, Syndra gets to carry, right? These are all Ghostly plus X. And then Heavenly gets to have the melee share. So Heavenly Yone, Heavenly Lee Sin, Heavenly Kayn. So like they enabled certain carries, but it ended up creating a whack-a-mole balance problem because they had to feel like, well, they can't be strong independently because then they become too good with these support traits. We were able to adjust this a bit for Heavenly, though not completely. We still saw some non-Heavenly champs in vertical Heavenly. But due to the structure of the set, we were completely unable to address it in time for Ghostly. The early mid-game experience would have been extremely rough for Caitlyn and Aatrox to get to carry through. This means that in the future, big vertical traits must have primary stars, which usually means selfish amounts of power to the champions within the trait. We'll still have smaller team, wide flex traits as well, but this was a key learning set. Uh-oh. You know what that means, guys? We're bringing back big verticals. We're bringing back the big vertical carries. I feel like, okay, so it's like big verticals, reroll compositions. This is what a lot of players were missing this set. What are the big verticals? Mythic, I guess Story Weaver, like Kale, but that's not really the case. Not really that much else at the moment. I guess like, because like the thing, like when we're talking about verticals, I'm talking about like you hit 6 or like 7 of something. Faded? Oh yeah, Faded. You're right. Faded was the big vertical. Okay. The second one we should talk about is Exalted. Ooh. This trait ended up being a lot of fun and made the game especially unique for our deepest engaged players who like to find ways to sneak the trait in each game. We struggled a bit to find making 5 Exalted worth it, but otherwise, it was a pretty novel idea. While something like this doesn't make sense to be in every set of TFT, it adds a healthy type of variance in the game in a way that players of all skills could enjoy. This is likely something that we could see coming back in the future, especially since we can change the output of the trait, what it does each time, as long as the concept of a rotating trait sticks around. So yeah, definitely one of the highs of Inkborn Fables is something we'll revisit someday. I mean, I love it. I think Exalted is a triumph. Some people said Exalted is like the true set mechanic for them. And again, this is for the more engaged player. Exalted is also kind of like really daunting for the casual player. But there are casual players that love the idea of just trying to play Exalted every game, even if they fail with it. So I think Exalted can be improved on to even be better for the casual player experience. Complexity ceiling. We've talked about this before, but this will help reinforce this. TFT is at its complexity ceiling. Yes, the game shouldn't really get more complicated than it is now, or it'll end up unapproachable. Agreed. Not just by new players, but even returning players took a few sets off. Over the next few sets, you're going to see us make attempts to bring that complexity ceiling without removing the depth or the fun from the game. The depth is especially important to retain, so while it's finding places we can cut unnecessary complexity while maintaining TFT's depth. Suggestion number 1. Actually, I was going to make a suggestion. I don't think it's that good, though. I was going to say that I think items and the item bench management resources stuff could be important, because the number one thing I feel like people get confused about a lot, from casuals all the way to high level, is that like the itemization thing of like picking up things from orbs. And then, like, if you teleport, you lose those things. But then, like, it also makes things so dizzy. Like, the item system for that could be, like, a lot better. There's a lot of complexity to that for no reason at all. But maybe I'm misconfusing complexity with just, like, clunkiness. Anyways, I agree with this 100%. I think TFT could tone it down. Let's use a practical example. If you're playing your first game on TFT while in Inkborn Fables, what's the first thing you see in a new game? You're immediately shown 3 portals, and you need to read about what they do, figuring out the meaning of that text, and decide which one you want. Then you see which one is picked and immediately starting strategizing based off that. It's a lot for a first-time player. So this is an area we think we can do better. It won't be ready for the next set, but we foresee a future where sets do not have portals as you know them, since we think we can capture the fun aspect of current portals in a way that doesn't overwhelm new and returning players. I can't tip our hand just yet, but this is an example of one area we can improve. They're going to cut portals. We have a few others in store in the future as well, but wanted to point this out as a big area of focus for us, especially to see us challenging even the most core of designs in pursuit of this. They're going to completely challenge one of the most core designs in TFT. That's scary language. Speaking of complexity, let's move on to a topic that goes hand in hand with it. So they're rethinking the way current portal... Maybe portals only work for yourself? I mean, Legends kind of did something like this as well. I'm actually really... I mean, all we can do is speculate, but I do agree we can bring that complexity of the game. We talked about this briefly in the last learning articles, but it's worth covering again since Inkborn Fables has some good and not so good examples. It's really important that players should be able to look at a champion and quickly grok what they should do. I actually don't even know. Well, it says grok. We look at Cho'Gath and think, oh, that's a big guy. He probably goes up front and tanks, and are generally right. This also helps our game be learnable and approachable, which we just talked about. Grok means understand. Oh, okay. You look at those abs. That's going to be me at LAN. Frodan's coming back. There were some rough examples in this set for sure. Yasuo as a tank is one that really forced you to squint a bit, phrasing, as he is typically a damage dealer, and the fantasy of a lone warrior samurai isn't something you'd expect to slam Gargoyle Stoneplate on. Aatrox and Riven were both champions that didn't really work out in this respect. They were both designed as damage dealers, but their spells, tuning, and design made them often considered generic frontliners as opposed to exciting carry champions. Yeah, I thought Aatrox and Riven could use hero augments this set, but I think they didn't. But they didn't want to give 3 trait champions a hero augment, because then like there's like a little design budget that they probably would go over at that point, because they're linking so many traits together, and then they become it's just too much. On the flip side, though, in the right spot and if executed correctly, pushing champions into a unique output can have positive results that can highlight a champion's core fantasy and create a new experience for TFT fans. Irelia is the best example of this, as she typically is a melee carry or tank in TFT, but this time we lean into her blade dancing fantasy and have her act as a backline damage dealer. The 5 and 4 cost space allow us to be more room to be interpreted with the champion, but this only works if it fits their theme and mechanics. Yes, I think Irelia was really cool this set. Really, really cool. She actually might go down as one of my favorite 5 cost carries ever made. To that end, internally we created champion rules framework that will help ensure that our set teams are leaning into the expected fantasies and roles that players will expect. From there, if we deviate, it will likely be in those late games champions. As a reminder, this framework is being applied to future sets, but not right away. Part of the trade-off for us is developing more sets. Okay, so they have to. So they're saying that this is probably going to be much more for like set 13 and onwards. The arcane set. So keep your eyes peeled for a couple unique champions, like a certain magic user who scales with attack speed. Okay, League nerds, I need you to tell me. In the next set, they may behave in ways you don't expect. And as always, be sure to let us know how it feels. Who are they talking about? A certain magic user who scales with is that the most recent champion? Aurora? Magic user that scales with attack speed. Twist of Fate? Oh, Twist of Fate. Kale? Azir? You guys are right. Those are all true. That's all true. Okay, so they're gonna reimagine them as something else. So it's kind of like, imagine if Twist of Fate was a tank. Weird. High risk champions, high risk traits are something that it feels like we can just talk about every one of these articles because they're just so fun. But they're also pretty tough to design and keep reinventing. And at their core, almost all of them so far have been a variation of trade health for resources. Heartsteel and Remix Rumble was a unique version of the style of the trait that was generally successful. I would argue very successful. I think I'm just ready to say it after going through Fortune. I've seen 11 iterations of this. Heartsteel is my favorite cash out mechanic ever made. It's so fun. It might be my favorite trait of all time. But also at the highest level, it was often too strong relative to other traits. I mean, that's true, but that's part of why it was fun. And it turned out playing strong traits is fun. Inkborn Fables Fortune, on the other hand, actually ended up almost perfectly balanced at the highest levels of play. And the dice roll was the unique twist that added more risk. The problem is, being balanced at the highest level of play generally meant for 99.5% of our audience, it was too weak and difficult to play, leading it to being less fun. Even if it's balanced, trading 70 player health for 4 anvils wasn't exciting enough, especially compared to past high-risk traits. He's just straight up saying the game is less fun because of challenger players. And therein lies the challenge. These traits need to be exciting, but also fair, and that line is razor thin. Combined with having to redesign and make new versions of each set, it's quite the design challenge. For the next set and the sets past this one, we're thinking about the other ways to provide the same high risk to reward feeling, but maybe not from the trait system. You can call our experiments here a bit high risk, but we think we'll be happy with the cash out. I'll show myself out. So it's not going to be around oh, maybe it's around an augment? Like maybe it's more like Fortune is now an augment? What if it's more of like a champion? It's like what doesn't kill you but higher stakes. In Monsters Attack, the set mechanic was hero augments, and every game players were forced to choose a hero augment of a random cost. The mechanic was fine, but having a hero augment every game was kind of ruined the novelty. In addition, carry champions hero augments are usually carry harder, which wasn't that interesting. True. However, we kept some of the learnings of hero augments and applied them to our last few sets, and they've ended up being wildly successful, with player deeply enjoying these augments. Sorry, Bryce. Even when the augments were weak, players were always excited about the new opportunity to turn tank champions into a new, unique carry champion. Seeing Shen doing true damage from afar, or Nico doing map-wide AoE and healing back up, are generally considered very fun, and players love picking these augments. It's true. The boss, Shen, even Nico were really cool. Yorick this set was really boring. Kabuko was fun. Garen was kind of fun, just too powerful. We want to keep doing this each set, as they are a nice addition to the augment space. However, there are a couple key learnings from this set we need to take forward. First, when hero augments are too strong, they're insanely frustrating, and it's a quick way to kill the novelty. Seeing someone make a Yorick perform well with the augment sitting at a 4.5 is awesome and makes you go, wow. Seeing a storage champion Garen when it's averaging a 3.9 makes you dread the rest of the game. So they're extra critical to be at the right balance state. Next, there's nothing more frustrating than seeing a hero augment you're excited to play, picking up and being pumped up, only to realize that someone else in the lobby has also taken the same one. Oh, bag sizes? You immediately feel like you're at disadvantage since you're contested, but there really isn't another option to pivot to something else. This isn't the kind of experience we want to have, so we're actively investigating ways to make sure this doesn't happen. Again, this requires tight balance, so we don't want whoever rolls uncontested story weaver has a large advantage, but we think we can get there and will be worth it for a better experience. No further comment. Look forward to more hero augments in our next set as well. They're pretty similar to Inkborn Fables, low-cost tanks that become carries, but the team cooked up some fun ones. There are ones you feel pretty unique, and at least that one will give you a sense of deja vu. Oh, a hint? Is Deja coming back to TFT? Are dragons coming back? Oh my god. Oh, wait, they combined two of my favorite mechanics of all time. Dragons and hero augments. 8 cost champion. You get a 2-star of it immediately. And it takes 2 slots on the board. Oh, shit. Hero augments and dragons. My God. I mean, that's definitely cooking. That's definitely cooking. It might be too strong, but what if hero augments gave more OG the champions in the pool and higher champion? Oh, yeah. I mean, one possibility is that if you click on this, it doesn't pull from the pool. That is one possibility. The other could be, but that's not like, that's hard. That's hard to like understand. The other could be that they reduce the likelihood that you, like, if you had story weed champion, at most only one other person can pick it or something like that. I don't know. Artifacts. As promised, we released 20 new artifacts a bit into the set. These items were released with the goal of adding more unique outputs that the base item can't really support. Other than the few minor hiccups, Talisman released too strong, Trenchcoat had a few bugs, the release was successful. Lots of unique outputs get opened up and create new dreams for players, which lead to more possible compositions. Personally, I love playing Horizon Focus Rek'Sai reroll and showed off that many times. We also saw Forbidden Idol Tom Kench, Blighting Jewel Teemo, and Winston Bard, and many more. Wow, a lot of exclamation points. What is this? Prowler's Claw, Corrupted. Whoa. Oh, this is Pengu's Party, the boss Garen. It'll be exciting to see how the artifacts get played around in the next set as people figure out which champion can utilize which units the best, who is going to be the best Corrupted Vampiric Set user. They're at a new level of depth to the set that allow people to show even more mastery of understanding how the game works. That being said, we may continue to explore how often players have access to these. Yes. Too often, and it's too easy to create these powerful situations. We had to remove the Trash Treasure augment because of this. That's true. I missed this augment. Trash Treasure. Whoa! Wait, I forgot. Wait, this augment was so fun. Oh, bring it back, man. I forgot. This augment was awesome. But not often enough, and they don't feel like part of the game that you can really learn. Over time, we may rotate some of these artifacts that really aren't exciting or working as we find more spaces to explore. Either way, this was a pretty big win for TFT in the long run. 11 article learnings later, there's still so much to do. We're constantly reflecting on how TFT lands with all of you, and we're hoping to share these internal conversations and discussion topics shows that. Time's short, so we've got to run for now. We'll have something sweet to share with our next set's release announcement. So until then, stay frosty and take it easy. All right. Congratulations. We made it through another set learnings article. I think this was a good one. I can generally get behind most of it. What was Bryce saying? So I read Bryce's reaction to it, but I tried to avoid reading because I didn't want spoilers to it. What was Bryce saying? He said he disagreed with it. Also, Emily Wang just tweeted something as well. I don't agree with all the conclusions of man, do I love being invested in a game that's so invested in transparency, surrounding its improvement. No one's balancing the TFT team. Bryce, do you mind talking about the parts you don't agree with? Encounters, hero augments, and artifacts are being framed too positively, IMO. Encounters are problematic in theory and execution. I disagree with that. And I also think that, I disagree with in theory. And I also think they overstate how fun players of all skill levels find them. I agree hero augments are fun, but I hate the play pattern. I think at least once per set they'll be overtuned and awful for the game. Artifact direction feels similarly bad to me. I dislike the feeling of a line only being enabled by a specific artifact, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be impossible to balance these interactions on the units consistently. I also dislike the level of RNG and having so many artifacts and getting offered 4. I wonder if Forge is even clickable and competitive without much of it being unfair.
I'm getting more dogged again.
I hear what he's saying. I feel like this is wrong, actually. I think Forge is actually very clickable. It's just about whether or not you know how to play around them and building game plans around them, and I think that's good. I think that TFT constantly challenging you in different ways, like, because the thing is, everyone knows that certain combos are OP, but it's not as simple. Like, it's not guaranteed. It's not guaranteed. There was a dude. Let me show you this, for example. But there was a dude who literally hit the OP combo and was like,
"What's Frodan doing?
Hey, are you trolling?" What did he say? What did he say? He said, "Dish Soap, are you and Frodan giga trolling people with your big mo comp on TFT or what? It's so dog shit. Even the turbo gigabits frontline dies in 0.0001 second XD." And it's like, you're looking at this and it's like, it's just not true. Like I understand he's talking about the extreme examples. But like he's saying, because I think Bryce is taking the extreme and saying that that's the average experience, and that's not true. You have to know what you're doing with it. If it's truly as broken as it's being depicted and framed at, then people would be able to just like fall into it and just like absolutely destroy lobbies, and that's just not true. I do understand that he's saying that he doesn't want too many sharp artifacts in the game because that would ultimately make it just like, well, it's balanced because it's 3.0 and 5.5, so it makes like a 4 point whatever, so you're fine with it. I understand that he doesn't want that, but I think the amount of times that happens is overstated, if anything. I think like people, this actually tells me everything about how Bryce views the game. That encounters are problematic in theory. I very much disagree with that. Like that's taking encounters at its worst and saying that this is like how encounters are and it'll never be true. There's good versions of encounters. There's good versions of, just like there's good versions of hero augments, and there's good versions of legends. Like there's good versions of it. She said, this is the first set in TFT where I didn't have strong feelings towards the game. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. And there were very few memorable moments and comps. I'm not sure I've been playing the game too long and lost some passion in the set, or the set was just that average. That's interesting. I actually have the same feeling, but I actually have a lot of memorable comps. That's actually really interesting. This set has so many more memorable moments than set 10 for me. Set 10 was like Heartsteel and like Wandering Trainers. But this set was like Fine Vintage was like crazy, or like all the crazy things you could do with some like the Suspicious Trenchcoat artifact stuff, or like I actually really think there's like a lot of cool things that happen. But like but I agree that like I didn't really love it or hate this set. But yeah, I mean, there's gonna be some average sets for sure. This is my wife. My wife tweets, "I'm proud to have always been a hater. Use your work software to engage." Okay, man. All right. Thank you for the extra commentary there. All right, so there you go. That's the end of the dev learnings article. I have my opinions of it. You might disagree with me. You might be thinking that like whatever I like defend too much of Riot. I mean, that's just your opinion. I personally think I criticize Riot a lot for stuff.